Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Invictus staff chat. I am so excited to do another one of these. I am Anthony. I will be here hosting alongside my good friend Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hi, it's good to see everybody. I'm here again, and I'm going to be following the chat to make sure that I can see all of your questions. So if you have any questions, anything at all for Caitlin or any of us, just throw them in there, and I will be sure that they get to be said at some point within this stream. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Perfect.
We're all good.
Perfect. And we are here today with Caitlin. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Caitlin is part of the Invictus staff, and she serves the most special of roles. She is the one who handles everything in Monster Camp. She is our Monster Camp master. She is the... she coordinates, she organizes, she herds cats, she is everything that makes logistics happen. So every part of the game that we come up with the most wild shit, and then she says, okay, we'll make that happen. And that's why we love her, because she is the best. So we're really excited to start talking to Caitlin a little bit about her role and what that means for the game. And if, as Alex mentioned, if you have questions for Caitlin, throw them out there because that's what we're here for. So we're going to jump right in. Caitlin, are you ready?
Okay. I am as ready as I will be.
Okay, perfect. I think you're ready. You're fine. So how did you get into LARPing in the first place?
So I originally got into LARPing with Parlor LARPs. I started as a freshman in college a few mumble amount of years ago. And I had always been, I'd always been kind of, I'd heard about it as a concept, but it wasn't something that I'd ever tried. And then I had the opportunity to try it, and I was like, well, this is very scary and strange, but why not? And I fell in love with it. It was absolute blast. I can't remember, honestly. I started playing tabletop games at about the same time as that. I honestly don't remember which one came first. They were about the same time, if not probably even the same week, but that's kind of how I jumped into it.
And then how did you make the move to like Boffer style LARPs?
Around that time, I tried NPCing one Nero event once, and it was a experience. And oh my gosh, I'm gonna say I a bunch of times now. Okay, so it was something that I was like, okay, maybe this is a little much, but it was still interesting because I didn't have any of the costuming or the time or anything like that. And I was like, well, let me try it. But I kind of stuck with Parlor LARPs for a while after that. And then I stopped LARPing for a period of years. And then I kept getting the itch. I'm like, I need to play a game or something. It's been too long. And I had friends, Nathaniel, another one of our staff members, who was talking about a game that he was playing and having a great time with. And I was like, well, you know what? Why not? Let me try it. And I had such an amazing time. And I was like, okay, all right, yes. And that's kind of how I made that switch into that, and haven't looked back.
So what other games in the community are you a part of?
I play Madrigal. I have been playing that for the past couple of years. I have been having a phenomenal time. I am very much looking forward to Fealty, which will be starting in the fall. I can't wait. Everything I've read about it, every time there's a new piece of information that comes out, I'm like, well, I have to change my character now because there's another thing that I want to do more. Though I think I finally settled on something. I staff Coventry, which has been another new experience, but I absolutely love it. And I run Monster Camp for Invictus.
So how did you come to get sort of roped into the Invictus world and doing this this part for us?
People in chat are already blaming it on Nathaniel, so you can
that
just
is
throw him under the bus if you want to.
that's true. It was around the time that that a little bit before the game started. Probably Nathaniel, maybe other people as well, posted things saying that they, hey, we're starting up a game, we're looking for NPCs to come to our events and things like that. I was like, yeah, the couple times I've went in NPC places, I've loved it. I would love to do that more regularly, but yeah. And reached out to Nathaniel since I knew him best. I was like, well, yeah, I'll show up, I'll NPC. And he's like, well, how much of a commitment do you want? And I'm like,
man, you got suckered so hard.
And well, I love behind the scene things. I absolutely love it. So I was like, what do you need? Do you need like a face roll sort of thing? Because I'm kind of nervous about that. I don't know if I'm ready. And he's like, no, we need. And he kind of explained, and he's like, let me talk with Mickey. And Mickey reached out to me, and we talked for a while, and he told me a lot about the game and things like that. And the more I heard, the more I'm like, yeah, no, I absolutely want to do this. If I sound like somebody who can help you with this, then I would love to be a part of this. So that's me.
So in general, what draws you to LARPing? Like what elements of this hobby brought you in and have held you?
I love the stories. I love it as a medium to tell different types of stories that it's so much, it's especially being on the staff side of things. I love being able to go from looking at a write-up for a mod and go, this is the very bare bones, or sometimes, much longer format of what we want this to be, or here's my vision for this. And then watching that go into play and watching everybody put their hands on it, players and staff and everybody, and how it changes and how the story evolves and it becomes something so much more. And it's really, really exciting to watch that happen. So it's really fun.
So you've had an opportunity now both to play games within this medium and then to run games both from a straight plot point of view with Coventry and with more of a logistics point of view with Invictus. What role amongst all of these really speaks to you the most? What have you really had the most fun with?
There's things I love about both of them. I love being able to just be immersed as a player. I love going to a game for a weekend and stepping into a role and just exploring the world that's been created. But as a staff member, I love watching people react. I love finding out how people are going to take the puzzle that we've conceptualized and solve it and do this, or we're going to present them with an A and B choice and they're going to come up with option X, and we had no idea that was even on the table, but it was, and now it's exciting, and now we get to see how that, and it's just, I really love both parts of it.
So obviously working behind the scenes is a huge amount of work, and it's probably the most important part of making sure an event runs well for players, for staff, for NPCs. So what elements of specifically that backstage logistics role are you drawn to? And what value do you get out of that?
I love watching it happen. I think the parts that draw me to it, I was always somebody who, going back to high school and things like that, I was involved in high school theater and things like that. And I was never somebody who wanted to be one of the actors in the play. I always wanted to be backstage. Mm-hmm. I really love the kind of the behind the scenes chaos. And then hopefully it looks absolutely seamless out, what the audience sees. And kind of the dichotomy between the two. It's really fun to both have that kind of just absolute whirlwind, and then having a completely sleep deprived staffer coming in and being like, where are my notes? What am I doing? Getting them their things, and then watching them walk out the door, and then them coming back later with this story about what happened, or just kind of watching the transformation. It's really fun. I love props and costuming and stuff like that too. So being able to kind of see all that stuff happen and kind of figuring out how to best make the world look like it should look, or find a solution of something that we already have, or something that I can sew or we can make, or something like that will make what whoever wrote the plot make it best fit that. It's I get a lot of enjoyment out of that.
And that's one of the spaces where your role really extends beyond, like that, like any given weekend, right? You have a very specific job when game is on. And then the rest of your time, you're, you are still doing logistics all the time for this game, including sourcing and creating and designing, props and costuming and stuff like that. Those elements of the job, the parts that come outside of the actual game site, how have you adapted to that? How have you enjoyed that? And are you where do you see the good value to come to you from that?
Sure. It's a fun challenge. It's fun. It's definitely a challenge sometimes, but it's fun to have somebody tell a story that, this is how this happens. And then this person will have this item and it's going to be this thing and it's going to be this mystical thing. And I have to go like, wait, okay, how do I make that? Or what, that sounds amazing, but what does it look like? And then trying to figure out how to make that as close to real for everybody involved, and trying to get that. It's a puzzle. I like puzzles, so it's a fun one to solve.
And I don't know if this is true for all staffs, but I suspect it is true in many, but especially true in ours, in that both Mickey and myself, and probably a few other of our staff members, are really good at I want to do this cool thing, and I have no concept of how to make that happen.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of times in staff meetings, or when we're talking about plots or something like that, where a concept is given, and I am the voice that kind of goes, but how do we do that? I love this idea, but where are we going to get 75 people?
I have also, to your
Hang
credit.
on a second.
To your credit, I will also say that while you are all usually the first one to say, yeah, but how are we going to do that? You are also the first one to say, you know what? Never mind. I think we can do something about this. So,
yeah, you tend to come up with ideas that are just like, oh, why didn't we think of that? Of course.
It's part of the challenge, and it's part of the fun for me, is being able to, I don't like being, I'm stubborn, and I like to find solutions for things. So if here's this absolutely fantastical idea, and no, I haven't conceptualized how it's actually going to be a physical object, or it's going to be a costume or something. It's a fun challenge for me to go, yeah, but it's gonna be we're gonna find a way. Give me maybe a week, but let me figure this out. But yeah, I really enjoy that.
That's awesome. So we actually have a couple of questions in chat. Kyle Darklighter wants to know, what was it like to play Stormwalker, and will we see her again?
that maniacal laugh.
I can't say if you'll see her again, but I did have a phenomenal time. That whole event was such an amazing payoff in terms of prep and being able to do things, but it was an absolute blast to walk out there as that character, and yeah, I really loved that. Definitely one of my favorite NPCs I've played so far.
So it sounds like you want to play that character again.
It's possible. I mean, if we needed it, I'm here. I'm literally I'm in monster camp. I'm here. So, I mean, I'm not right now. Right now I'm at home, but it could happen. I'm not just chilling at the monster camp right now.
Yeah, I mean, that was such a very, very, very cool scene to see you come out and as the Stormwalker. Such a, I think, like an iconic moment for us so far. It was really cool.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Also, so because we were talking about the various puzzles that you solve for us when we have these ideas of what we can do, but we have no idea how to do them. Amphibious Pupper asked, what are some things that Caitlin made that ended up in Invictus?
A million togas. Just a handful of togas. We actually had an alarming amount. But
well, Silway jumps in and says the Thalasi cloaks were a great early example of making my vague concept into reality.
I'm glad that they were able to. I had a lot of fun making those. The Thalasi cloaks were a lot. They were a challenge, but they were fun. Oh gosh.
There have been a whole bunch of instances of things I feel like that are, at the very least, they're like, here's a very here, we're going to use this fabric that we have a bunch of, and we're going to on the fly turn it into precisely what you were thinking of, even if it's not the way you were thinking of it, because you just have no concept for physical objects, Mickey.
I have definitely seen fabric plus NPC who walked into Monster Camp equals Caitlin can make something work.
Yeah.
I like to kind of MacGyver situations. So, I mean, if I can take...
And you do it very well.
If I can take, like, okay, I've got 7 marbles, 3 yards of fabric, some Christmas lights. I got this. Like, it's... I don't know why that's so much fun, but it is.
And so really anyone who has been at an event for Invictus has seen probably a dozen examples of this without even necessarily being able to call them out, because a lot of times for like us on like who are running out to do something like on staff, we're like, I need a thing, and Caitlin's just like, here's a thing, and you're like, great, and then you run. If
people can never point out the things that are like, oh wait, that is just Christmas lights and 7 marbles and 3 yards of fabric, then I am the happiest person ever, because then, I mean, if you do stop and figure out how it's made and stuff like that too, that's fine as well. But
do you have any others you want to throw out in here?
There is one more question in chat that's going on right now. Mary Fairy 91 asks, how do you go about making sure that everything runs smoothly when there is a possible oops moment during the LARP? Have fun with this question.
I think...
Is
there ever not an oops moment?
No,
that's the thing. It's most likely
ever not. It's more, there's always going to be at least one. There's always going to be some sort of there's a million different ways that can go. But I think the way I think of it a lot of the times is, so I guess pure logistics sense, which might not be the most interesting. I have a schedule of what is happening. I also have printouts of the different mods that will be happening at different times. And I go to all of our staff meetings, so I've heard about all of these, how they interact and what the overall vision is going to be. So when we have a moment where something happens and we had a certain thing planned that was going to happen directly after dinner, or we had something that was planned and just it's pouring rain right now and that is absolutely not going to happen. We're going to have to find, just for whatever reason, we're going to have to find another way to do this. Kind of trying to keep a picture of what the whole picture we're trying to make is, and trying to figure out what part can be either moved to another part, or if something worst case scenario has to be changed in a way, or something like that. I mean, the staff is phenomenal to work with, and there's been a lot of times where they've come back in and into Monster Camp, and our staff is so busy all the time, and it's so much, it's both exhausting and fun to watch, just watching them kind of come into the building, figure out their next thing, refresh themselves, grab whatever they need, and then just turn right around and then go out as an entirely different person. It's being able to catch them for a moment and go, this is what happened. These are potential options. Is there something else that I should be doing? And just kind of being able, and they're also wonderful to work with, that it's really easy for us to kind of think through those things out.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we've had a bunch of ways that things have gone not according to plan.
Very much so.
at any given event. Sometimes they're logistics outside of our control. Sometimes they're plot related because our players came up with a thing that we were not necessarily prepared for, but we'll make it work. And so I think that there's always that level of controlled chaos that you're really facing down in Monster Camp. That's pretty much the job.
Yep.
So sort of on that note then, part of your role is to manage the NPCs who are there for the weekend to play roles. Like, we've got a rotating group who come in and out over the course of the weekend. Some stay the whole time. Some are there for a couple of hours. Yep. What are your expectations of NPCs who come to play the game? And if someone in the chat now who was thinking about coming to NPC, wanted to come in NPC, what could they do to make that process easier?
Awesome. If somebody who's never, whether it's somebody who's NPC'd a million times and played a million games, or somebody who's brand new to LARPing, I would love to have you come at NPC for me. It would be amazing. I think the biggest thing for me is it's communication. Whether you're brand new or you're not, let me know what you're comfortable with or what you want to try, or if there's something that makes you nervous that you don't want to do or that you want to challenge. So that way, when I'm trying to figure out, okay, I need 4 people for this mod over here, I need 2 for this one, I need 1 person to go with this staff member over to this other scene, that I can know, there's one person who said that they really love role-playing opportunities, and this one's going to be probably talking a bit more. Let me put this person here because they're more comfortable with it. I have this person who said that they absolutely love fighting, and I know this one's going to be, a crunchy encounter, and let me, so I guess communication is really, really the big thing for me, is that. And part of that is, are you having fun? Are you tired? Or do you need to stop and take a break? I would so much rather people sit and drink water and just have a snack and go take a nap if they need to, than push themselves and fall apart, because I don't want anybody getting hurt. I don't want anybody uncomfortable and leaving the weekend going, why? I want people to know to have a good time and want to come back, because I have a good time, and it's very helpful to have other people around you who are also having a good time. So
I've been that person at Invictus who went, I'm dying right now, I need to go to sleep. And you just go, we got it. We'll do something else instead of the thing that you were going to go do. You're good. Caitlin, you were so easy to go. Like, I was super nervous, and you made it so much of a relief to just go to you and say, hey, I'm done for the night. And then you just sent me to bed, and I tried to fight against you at that point. And I was like, no, I need to do this thing. And you were like, nope, I got this. You're good. I just want people to know that you can go to Caitlin and say, I'm dying, please help. And she will help you.
There has been multiple staff members at this point that I think either I or other staff members have been like, it's bedtime now. Because we all get to that point at some point. And
absolutely.
And, like we kind of talked about before, when things go either, I don't want to say go wrong, but when something unexpected happens, and whether that's someone, everybody's got a real life, whether it's somebody who's going, I've had the absolute busiest week of my life, I can't stay up until, 2 a.m., let alone midnight tonight. Well, we all have the communication to be able to say, we'll figure it out. So,
yeah. I mean, and that's huge. And yeah. I think that's maybe a part of your role that a lot of people don't see, is the level of sort of facilitating communication that you are capable of doing as the centerpiece of Monster Camp. There are, like, when I'm on site and I'm running stuff, there are hours in a row where I don't see Mickey. But if there's something I need to convey to him, I know that I can leave it with you, and the next time he shows up, whether I'm there or not,
Yep.
you know, that message can get across. And the same is true for any of the staff members that come in, any of the NPCs. There is a really nice way to sort of pass information for you to be the one who has the bird's eye view and sees everything that's happening, to be able to get that information back and forth. And then you also have the ability, and have exercised as such, to be able to take control of the room when you need it, and and convey that information. And that's, I think, a very valuable skill that is such a huge facet of this role. So on the other side of this, right, if we have players who have been coming to the game or are thinking about coming to the game, from the behind the scenes perspective of players, what are your expectations for the PCs? And are there things that they can do to make the job of making this thing run easier?
Expectation. I think in some ways it's still a little bit communication. We love, whether if you're an existing player, we love getting pels. We're so lucky that so many of our players take the time after games to write and tell us what went really well, what they loved, what things maybe didn't land exactly right for them, and or something that they really want to see. And it's really useful to be able to have that information and kind of know what's going to happen. For new players, I know as a new player to games, it can be intimidating sometimes to reach out to staff and say, hey, I've got an idea, because you're presenting something that you've created and going, here's what I made. Is it good? And we want to see it. We're so excited when we get new character histories or questions or things like that, or someone who comes in, even if it's a very rough idea, and just, I'm thinking about being a person from this place and maybe doing kind of this, and then working with them and watching the staff work with them and kind of come up with that. It just builds such a cool thing. Yeah.
And you've had a very unique perspective in the way that our PCs and our NPCs and our staff interact, because you're kind of bolted to Monster Camp. You get out every once in a while, but for the most part, I try
to. But I am anchored to that building.
And we're grateful for that. We're very grateful for that.
But you have had an opportunity to, everything that goes out the door. You get more or less briefed on most things that come back in the door, and especially when things go in a direction that makes the staff member excited to share the story or whatever, right? Like, that's going to increase your exposure to that. From your more unique perspective on this, is there what have been your favorite moments so far from the Invictus Monster Camp?
Oh my gosh,
we actually have a player a person in chat asking what the biggest curveball PCs has ever thrown at you was.
Oh,
so I think that goes along with the same question.
Gosh, biggest curveball. I'm gonna have to think about that one a little bit, I think.
We can come back to it.
Yeah,
it's hard because I was thinking about this also because for a lot of the times, like when we get a curveball like that, we're just like, okay, this is it now. Like, this is what's in stone. Throw everything else out.
As far as curveballs, so one of the things that I do is I have a notebook, and I try to be whenever, but when a staff member comes back into Monster Camp, and part of what I do is I find them and I go, tell me what you told them about that scene that you weren't expecting to tell them, so that we can kind of keep building on that story and keep having the consistency. So if somebody goes out and says, my favorite color is green, next time they go out, it's not yellow. Or that if they, so-and-so now has a sister. Okay, let's, maybe there's something that we can build off of that or something like that. Now we've made a whole new person. But those moments when I come back in and I'm talking to someone or they come back in and they're telling me about what they did or what the players did, and they say, you won't believe what they asked. or I wasn't going to give them this piece of information quite yet, but the way that they put this and this together, like it's fun to find that out. And then sometimes there's times where I'm like, oh, okay, okay. So it's sometimes there's definitely times where it's just like they figure that out already, or they've got this idea and this is the way that they're taking it. And it's like, it's really cool to see the different ways that people are taking the ideas that we have and running with them and doing stuff.
Well, and I know from our standpoint, like there have been multiple large scale field events, like typically as the event rolls on, something happens over the course of the event where we basically just like throw out the latter half. Just have to.
Yeah, there's been more than one time where somebody, Anthony, or someone else has come back into Monster Camp and said, it's not happening anymore. What do you mean it's not happening anymore? Oh, yeah, no, it's not. No, it's gone. We're throwing it out. So cool. Okay. We'll work with it and we'll figure something else out. And so what is happening? Where do we go next? What do I prep now?
I'll let you know in 10 minutes. I got to go stand on the porch and think.
Exactly. And
you got to admit, it's half the PCs that throw us for curveballs, but half ourselves that end up throwing the curveball.
And it's unexpected sometimes, and it's always exciting.
And then to follow up on that, do you have fun stories from inside Monster Camp? I know some stuff you are not always going to be able to talk about, but do you have moments that have really been like highlights for you from inside Monster Camp that have been a big part of this?
I think one of the things that made me just absolutely the happiest for how it came out was our last event, where we completely transformed the camp while the players were away at a mod. It was something that we were talking about for a long while before we actually got to it. And then to send the players out on this mod and kind of look at the clock and go, okay, go, and just put it all into motion. That was it was completely nerve-wracking to do, because it's like, okay, we can do this. I think we can do this. And then just watching what the camp became and knowing that now practically, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, they're going to come walking back down the path and they're going to be in a place that isn't where they left. And that's one of the moments where, as much as I am anchored to Monster Camp, that's one of the moments where it's like, I want to be out there. I want to see that first reaction. I want to see what happens. But being able to have the stories come back of the player or from the staff members who are out there, NPCs who are on the mod, being like, oh, the mood was completely like this. And then they walked down here and this happened. And so basically what happened with that is, in case we have any people who are, should I say what we did?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
It's happened.
I think it's fairly common knowledge.
Yeah, it happened. Yeah. So we had an event where the players went to basically a hell world, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Things went bad. They went on something that was relatively lighthearted and a relatively silly ritual that maybe, there was going to be some information that was found, but, it was going to be a good time either way. And then when they walked back, they weren't where they left. And it was a much scarier, darker place. Alex got these phenomenal theater lights that we were able to light up the entire tree line, just like bright red. So as they came down the path, there was just this glow, and then they turned and they realized, I don't think we are where we were. The space that we use is the tavern. We completely transformed. We we switched all the lighting around, we rearranged all the furniture, we basically, every piece of the camp that was recognizable landmarks for the players, we figured out a way to change it, and it was so much fun to watch that happen.
I think that was one of, if not the biggest logistical undertaking I have ever seen in an event. It was wild and very impressive.
Yeah. Honestly, so the chat itself is currently, I believe, thinking that you're some sort of sorceress with how you can orchestrate this kind of stuff. But honestly, if you want to know, I wish that everybody could see just how you orchestrated that. Because the fact that you just were able to go, okay, you're going to go do this, and okay, you're back from this, okay, now you're going to go over and set up those lights, and then the orchestration of that was all on you, and it was fantastic to watch. It was incredible. I'm incredibly impressed by our entire staff, but just how you handled that was possibly the most witch-like thing I've ever seen you do. It was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it is not something I could have done alone. Having so many people who are so willing to just fully commit to making it happen, and people who were willing to trust me, saying, no, don't even think about setting up this thing over here. Just go and do this. Trust me, it's going to work. It's going to work. We're going to make it work. Oh gosh, other favorite moments. There's a lot of fun little moments in Monster Camp. Watching people NPCs get into makeup to go out on a mod, and having the moment where they're kind of like, somebody might be like, wait, what are we being? And then getting the explanation, and then having the makeup put on, and then being like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. It's a fun transformation to watch it, having the way different staff members psych themselves up for things, whether it's, listening to The Little Mermaid to get in a particular mindset or something like that. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun. I love the kind of the creativity and the willingness of the staff to be able to, or to go, I have this idea, let's figure out how to do it. Whether it's having a scene where players see something and then they have the ability to view it again in a different way, and kind of figuring out ahead of time what the logistics for how we're going to kind of stage our little, block everything out and kind of stage everything, and then be able to pull that off. So to them, it just looks like they're just being able to manipulate time and be able, or whether it's, it's just keeping things as seamless and kind of the chaos inside of Monster Camp, and then everything else outside.
Yeah. It's the Monster Camp needs to be chaos with the illusion of calm, and outside needs to be calm with the illusion of chaos.
Right, exactly.
So you've had the opportunity to play a couple of roles with Invictus, and I'm sure this is going to dovetail with the conversation we already had. But what's been your favorite role to play, and of that role, like, what are the elements you're looking to bring when you step out of Monster Camp as a character?
I loved being the Stormwalker. That was really exciting. As you can all see now, I'm kind of an anxious person sometimes, maybe. I am kind of a little bit of, it's very fun to read. It was I'm trying to think of the good words.
The good ones. They're in
good
there.
Ones. They're in there. They're somewhere. They're in here. They're up here. Taking the having the write up of this mythical being and going, can I do this? How am I going to do this? And honestly, I wasn't entirely certain. As much as I sort of figured out and be like, yeah, I think I'm capable of this. I think I can pull off this role. It was right about before I was very nervous, pretty much until I stepped outside. And then I was like, I'm ready. Let's do this. And it was just an absolute mindset change. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And it was also the metric gallons aren't metric, but leaders
Metric
of
leaders.
the metric leaders of blood that went into that was amazing.
Oh, the stories of Monster Camp and fake blood.
There are certain staff members who think it's a treat. It is not a treat. Okay?
It is the most expensive glucose injection you can get through your stomach.
It's not delicious, Nikki.
I think another NPC, it was, as much as it was, I try to get out of Monster Camp at least once, not because at least once an event, not because I have to leave, but just because I really want to see the world that we've created. And a lot of the times that's as just kind of an NPC in a combat mod or something like that, not necessarily a named role. When the Maw of Truth appeared, that was something we'd again talked about for a very long time of how would we do this. And we recorded and Anthony layered all of these different vocal tracks and other things together. And we had Bluetooth speakers that we placed around. And being out there setting that up, there was a moment where we had switched them on and the sound was starting very, very quietly. And there was a couple players who walked by who kind of looked at each other and went, well, that's not good. And it was just this whispered moment between them of like, oh no, something is about to happen and I don't know what it is. And this is, and just kind of feeling the anticipation start there. I was like, okay, we did it. We pulled off what we were talking about.
So what lessons have you taken from your experience at Invictus and brought to other parts of your life or other LARPs you've been a part of? What are the big elements from this game that have had an influence on you?
Plan, but be accepting of the changes that are inevitably going to come. Whether it's running in Monster Camp at Invictus or writing my own plots for Coventry, knowing that there's going to be something I don't expect and it's going to happen, and being able to roll with that and figure out how to adapt to it in the moment and make it seamless and not be so tied to what could have been, but instead make what is happening. I think running Monster Camp as much as I've always been a behind the scenes sort of person, I never had the confidence to staff a game before this. It was something I wasn't certain that I'd be capable of doing, and being able to kind of take the leap and go, let's try, and hopefully I succeed, and worst case, I'm not good at it for a while and I learn how to get better. Or worst case, they go, thank you, but no, thank you. But just having the willingness to kind of take the chance and just take the risk and do the thing. I think that's basically what I've gotten out of it.
Well, I'm glad that you did that, because you basically own all of us now and we wouldn't be able to do this without you.
Yeah, I like the kid was like, oh, I don't know if I can staff a game. I'll come do this thing at Invictus. And then she was like, oh, this is what these guys are doing this? I can do that. That's fine.
Oh, yeah, they need my help. Yeah, no.
No,
but that's what you do. And that's actually what we need. You, as you said very early on in this, you herd cats. And you're very good at it.
I like it. I like herding cats. Good.
Do we have anything else in the chat, Alex?
The chat is mostly just in awe of what Caitlin can do and how she just is a magical person.
Thank you, chat.
She is that. So with the stuff that is coming down the line, right? We have a lot of great ideas coming forward. Are there things, and obviously you can't talk about everything that but are there elements of this game that you're really looking forward to? Are there pieces you're really excited about sharing with players that you can talk about, or that you can allude to that you are excited about?
Oh gosh. Trying to think about without giving things
I know.
away.
This is always tough
Yeah.
because of the nature of
That's
this
the hardest
game.
part.
I know that after we did the hell transformation, Mickey and I kind of stopped and we walked through and saw it all come together, that it had all come together. And I don't know if it was then or if it was over a milkshake post game. The conversation was had of basically, okay, but how do we top this now? And that makes me excited because we will.
We have to.
And we're going to, we have to. It is going to happen, and we're already kind of tossing around a couple ideas and some places where we can do that. But I'm just so excited. There are so many. We're in the beginning of the story, and there's so many pieces that have gone out there, and to watch and see what happens with them, and to see the realizations that people have when they put certain pieces together, or when something happens and they go, wait, I want to see that. I can't wait for that. That's the parts that I'm the most excited of just what we have coming next.
So we got a question in chat.
I'm keeping it super vague because
That's perfect.
I
Nope, it was exactly,
That's fair.
that was beautiful.
That's fair.
Well done.
We have a question in chat that was asked right after I said, "Oh no, there aren't any questions in chat. They're just in awe of Caitlin." So Kyle Darklighter wants to know, if you were a PC in Invictus, what would you want to play? Which is a great question.
Gosh.
Very good question.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Right?
I think even when I first started, when Nathaniel said we're looking for NPCs, and I went to the website and I started looking about what the world was, because I didn't play Invictus 1. Looking what the world is, looking at what everything is so fleshed out. It's hard to go wrong. There's so many different worlds that are so different.
That's the thing. There are so many times when we sit there and we go, "Oh, I really wish I didn't know everything I knew right now so I could play this game and follow the storyline." But now when I ask you, of course, everything's going to leave your head. I totally get that.
It's so hard because, we have
There's
to
so
sort
much.
of think about this game through all of these lenses all the time.
Yeah.
I love the flavor of Blood Witches. I think that's a really, really interesting part of the world. Or many worlds. I think that it's a really unique way to handle that. Sort of the way healing is particularly handled in our game is not the way it is in many other places. I think I get to talk with all of the staffers about all their different plots, and there's so many different pieces that I go, oh, I would love to be a player in this from this place, trying to, getting to experience this. I don't know if I can choose one.
That's fair. That's completely fair. Completely fair.
I don't know if I can choose just one.
That was a great question, though, and I am
it's
going
a
to steal
really
it for
good
every
question.
other interview we do from now on. So thanks for that, Kyle Darklighter. I just want to throw in, from my perspective, a huge thank you to Caitlin, who has helped keep these things going, keep the events running smooth. It is the best monster camp I've ever been a part of, and it has been instrumental in my ability to throw everything into disarray. Because if Caitlin wasn't there to pick up the pieces, it would not be able to go as smoothly as it does. And I just vastly appreciate everything she does for the game. And she is the best. So thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
For doing
Thank you
that.
So I have one more question, and I know that you answered this to a point before, but I wanted to ask every single staff member this question. What is your advice for somebody who is playing Invictus for the first time, or who is LARPing for the first time?
Ooh. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Whether that's as a new player who's coming in, who is not familiar with LARPing and wants to talk to other players before game about what they might expect, or to staff about whether pieces of their backstory, how they can make them fit better in with the world, or things like that. Or whether once they're in character, even if you're brand new, even if you've never LARPed before, your opinion and what you're seeing in those scenes is the same as anybody else. Is you have as much right to ask and go, wait, does this fit with this? Or these two things that we saw? Or does this, can we do this? Like, ask the questions, do the things, just try new stuff, and don't be too afraid of making mistakes. And if you,
mistakes are sometimes the best way to have fun.
There's literally nowhere better in the world to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Honestly. No, I mean,
Yeah.
Sorry, say what you were going to say.
No. I guess, that's one of the great things about being in character is I took the big risk and it did not pay off, but that's a game. It's, you get to do the crazy thing and go, I am going to try to whatever. I can't think of a thing now, but I am going to try that. I'm going to, what's the worst that could happen? I could die.
Yeah.
The game.
Okay, look, I get a second life. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I kind of want to jump on what Anthony was saying before about how you run this, you make this game possible to run. And I am completely new to staffing a LARP. This is the very first LARP that I ever staffed, and honestly, this was also the very first time I NPC'd, so I didn't know what I was dealing with walking into Monster Camp that first time. I was like, cool, they got me on staff, don't know what I'm doing. And honestly, without you, Caitlin, so I walked in the first game and I went, yeah, I've been writing stuff for this. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the actual, lore of this, but I don't know what I'm doing now. Somebody help. And I was expecting complete chaos, and I was expecting to just be useless. And you helped me feel welcome. You helped me feel like I knew what I was doing. You helped me figure out what to do. And honestly, we could not do any of this without you, and I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for coming and being our guest here tonight, because this was really fun.
This is really fun.
And we appreciate you coming to talk about you and your role here. And that's awesome. And if you are new to our little community, or if you are, I guess not, don't forget to go to our website, invictus-larp.com. There's all kinds of information there. If you have questions about the world that you have not dug into, there's all kinds of stuff there. There's also opportunities to get info about upcoming events and everything that's going on with us that we're so excited about. So go and check that out. We've got Facebook groups that you can join for more information as well, and a great community of players there who are more than willing to answer questions and help get involved. If you are not currently following the LFE account here for on Twitch. We had a couple of followers just now. Make sure you're hopping on there. Make sure you're following. That way, when we go live for the next one of these, which will be not this coming Friday, but the Friday after.
Basically, the Friday where you would have been going to an event of Invictus.
That's right. A Friday where, yeah, exactly. Where it would have been Invictus, so we know you're not busy. Come on back here and hang out with us that Friday night. We're going to be interviewing another member of the staff. Also, any of the chats that come out for Coventry or for the... I always want to call it the night game because I am not. What's the Caitlin? You mentioned it. Fealty. Thank you. Jeez. So any of the chats that happen for Coventry or Fealty, they'll also be in this space. So make sure you throw a follow to us here. Make sure you come back and check it out anytime we're streaming one of these because we love the other games that are part of this system and are part of this network, and we just want to make sure we're all sharing the love. Plus, they're great games. So, and Caitlin will be doing one of these probably for Coventry as well. So you will see her again. I think that's everything. Alex, thank you for coming out and doing this with us again and being the voice of the chat.
Absolutely.
And we thank you all for coming to hang out with us. This has been great, and you're all great too. And we'll see. We hope you
enjoyed it. We hoped it was fun for you, and we hope to see you again next time.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.